Hi, my name is Gwen Wild and I'm the owner of SensationalBrain.com. I'm also an occupational therapist and I've worked extensively with children with sensory processing issues. We have created BrainWorks to empower children to effectively manage their own sensory needs in order to allow their sensational brains to excel. Let me give you an overview of what you can do with BrainWorks. If you suspect your child is struggling with sensory processing, I highly recommend an evaluation by an occupational therapist. Your OT can work with you to determine what types of sensory input will be most beneficial for your child and will most likely be able to help you get started using your BrainWorks sensory diet tool. However, due to insurance restrictions, I know many children who have sensory processing problems but don't qualify for OT services or don't have access to them. If that is the case, we will give you all of the support we can and hope that BrainWorks can be helpful to you and empowering to your child. If your child hasn't already been diagnosed with a sensory processing problem, you will probably want to start by printing off our Sensory Systems Checklist found under the Forms tab at the top of the website screen. This simple checklist will give you an idea of whether your child is over-responding, under-responding, or seeking extra of certain forms of sensory input. Next, you will need to decide which type of BrainWorks product will work best for you and your child. The least expensive option is to join with digital access only. This will allow you access to BrainWorks online at SensationalBrain.com to select and print picture cards to use to create a variety of sensory diet tools such as these. You may also choose to join by purchasing one of our kits. Both the single-family, single-classroom kit as well as the therapist kit provide you with digital access to BrainWorks online as well as physical products like this that will be shipped to you and ready to use immediately. Either way, let me demonstrate our products for you to help you make a more informed decision. First, the file folder. If you have ordered one of our physical products, your file folder will look more like this. If you are a digital-only member, yours might look more like this. The alert program for self-regulation first introduced us to the premise that our sensory systems are like a car's engine. With the BrainWorks system, we use the colors of the stoplight to indicate the different sensory speeds. When we are on red, our systems are stopped or too slow. We may be feeling sluggish, hard to motivate, and are probably having trouble attending. When our systems are in red, we need stimulating activities to be the healthy fuel for our engines. Using BrainWorks, we will guide the child to choose green arrow activities to help them get going, perk up, or be alert. At other times, our sensory engines are on full speed ahead, indicated by green on the tachometer. At this speed, we are going too fast, mentally or physically. In this state, we are somewhat out of control and a crash is likely. We feel this way when we are anxious or overstimulated by the environment. During times like this, we typically need calming activities, indicated by red arrows, to slow our engines down. However, at other times, our engines are in green for a different reason. Some children need extra sensory input in order for their brain to feel satisfied. These children are often described as hyperactive and seem to be in constant motion. Even though these kids' sensory engines are already on green, they still need green activities to help them reach the high level of sensory input that they need. The best way to explain this is to say that they have too much gasoline in their gas tanks, and the quickest way to burn off the extra gas is through the green arrow activities. In the end, they will seem more calm and focused. The goal is for our engines to be at the just right speed, able to focus on the most relevant things in our environment and work or play effectively. The yellow arrow activities are just right activities. These types of activities are almost always beneficial to our sensory systems, no matter how we are feeling. Therefore, children are always allowed to choose yellow arrow activities in addition to either red or green. For example, I have a young friend named Kyle who has a very high threshold for sensory input. He is a whirlwind of activity. He nearly always identifies his engine as being on green. Since he has too much gasoline, he is encouraged to choose green arrow activities or yellow arrow activities. The green will help him burn off the extra energy the most, but the yellow will be helpful as well. If you have 10 or 15 minutes for a sensory break, cue the child to choose 3 or 4 activities and place them on the Velcro pieces on the outside of the folder. This will now serve as a mini schedule to encourage their independence during their sensory break time. The child will complete one activity, move it back into the folder, and move on to the next activity. Sometimes you may only have time for the child to select one activity to get him or her back on track. That's okay too. This tool is flexible and can be used as needed rather than on a rigid schedule. The keyring tool is useful for older kids to use during the teaching phase of the sensory diet and as an ongoing reminder of which activities may be beneficial to them. You will choose which activities are available and appropriate for your child at home or school and place those on his or her keyring. During the teaching phase, help your child get in touch with how their sensory engine is running and refer back to the keyring frequently to help him or her make adjustments to their sensory systems as necessary. Soon, your child may not need to have the keyring with him or her often, but will remember the activities and their effect. The first-then format is best for younger kids or kids with cognitive impairments. In this case, you are selecting the first activity, which may be a learning task or a task like toothbrushing. The child chooses the then activity from 2 or 3 choices that you select based on what you know his or her sensory system needs to stay on track for their next work task. In some cases, the child's day becomes a series of first-then to complete their educational objectives. A routine-based sensory diet tool works well for kids who have trouble getting ready for school or winding down for bedtime. You intermix routine tasks that have to be done with sensory activities that will help the child modulate. Provide choices whenever possible and let the child help to set up the schedule. Once the child is made, he or she will work through the task one at a time. If you have any more questions about BrainWorks, please feel free to use the contact form online at sensationalbrain.com or email me directly at gwen@sensationalbrain.com. I'm always happy to help. Thank you for watching this introduction to BrainWorks, the Sensory Diet Creator Tool.